Hello everyone, Caroline here. Today I want to share my cards that I created with the Spellbinders kit for the month of November. Jumping right into the first card here. I decided to make kind of like a flower arrangement, and I used 2 pattern papers and also all those leaves, all those flowers that came with the ephemera, with the die cuts. And I'm cut up one of the pattern papers and attached it diagonally on the other one. And then I used just a die from just a rectangle die to cut out my card base. For the flowers, I attached like gold vellum to those white leaves with the gold foil, and then I add dimension with foam tapes to the little flower, and you can see me here attaching leaves. That's one of the poinsettia that came with the die, or the die that's the poinsettia, and I'm just gonna use those as extra leaves. And I used some green here, so to give it a little bit more contrast, more interest. I used one of the die cuts for my sentiment and added also some dimension to it by adding some foam tape. And here you can just see me fiddling around. So I do that quite often when I do arrangements. I just first figure out how I want this to look, and then I attach it with foam tape and liquid glue and attach everything properly. For embellishing this card, I use those pretty dots that came with the kit, and then I add some Nuvo drops for the inside of the flowers, and also some gold stickles. Gold stickles I will use a lot with this kit because I think it's the perfect match. I also add some stickles to the leaves of the poinsettias, and that's the finished card. Okay, for my second card, that's a pretty simple card. I used one of the pattern papers, and actually 2. One is this blue woody pattern background, and the other one is the house, the little village. And I also use a piece of matching red pearlescent cardstock that I had in my stash. Now I added 1 row or 2 rows of houses. I cut them up. Add them on the bottom, or want to add them on the bottom, and then I added I cut up another row and add them to the top, so it looks like a little village with a street in the middle. Then I cut this up, and I add this, and this came from the chipboard stickers that came with the kit, this little train, this Polar Express, and just glued it right there in the middle. And then I made one of those, used the sentiment that said special delivery, and I use both, and I do this quite often with Spellbinders die cuts. I just use them because they're always double. I use them a lot double, so I can make kind of like a 3D looking sticker. Yeah, so then attach this to the front of my card. I add some gold stickers to some of the little windows. and also some some glaze, crystal glaze, and I also used some Nuvo drops to add some dimension to the roofs and the windows. And that's the second card. Number 3. Okay, for this card, I used all those ornaments that came with the kit, with the die cuts. I cut out 2 of the ornaments that's with the die from this kit. And here you can see me how I built again my 3D stickers. I mean, not stickers, but my I like to lift a lot of my a lot of the dies. I like them lifted up, and I like them to have more stability. That's why I'm using the double, and I usually use those die cuts only one time, so I don't mind using both of the die cuts. Here I'm assembling the other ornaments, and I use this little hanger that came with the die, or that I cut out with the die, and attach it also to those die cuts. Now I do my background, and I use the cut pattern paper and cut with my ruler. I ripped off like a rough wavy edge on both sides. And I'm adding a sentiment inside of this card. And then to hang them, or to hang the ornaments, I use some gold twine, and what I'm doing is I'm first adding all this glue to the back, so it's easier for me to stick this later on to the card base. And I'm just arranging loosely those ornaments with the twine around this card, or the card base. Then I stick this on, and my ornaments are not yet completely, there's still some wiggle room. So once I'm done, I use my foam tape, and then I straighten up those twines and place the ornaments where I want them, attach them properly. So see me here attaching all those foam tapes. And even though I used a lot of twine for this, I'm okay with the bulk on the top. What I did is I added a lot of liquid glue on the top and pressed it down, and it's almost, you can barely see this. This is really, I mean, you see the thread goes in there, but it's really I thought I would have a lot of bulk, but I didn't. So it really turned out nicely. Now add again some Nuvo drops to that bow and to the other bow, and add some little dots, and of course my gold stickles on the side. And that's the finished card. Okay, card number 4. Yeah, this is that's a neat card too. I just used a piece of blue cardboard and ripped up one of the pattern papers and made it almost look like a mountain ridge. And then I used the frame that came with the chipboard stickers and attached some vellum in the back. Cut the rest, the leftover away, and then I used one of the balloons and squeeze this right between the frame and the vellum. And then I added also this little sentiment, December 25th, underneath the balloon. And I added also one of the little poinsettia leaves that I cut out with the die. And I add some stickers to my balloon, and also in the back to make it look like stars. And I also added the stickers, the glitter stickers, the stars and the joy. So that was also a pretty simple card. Card 5. For this card I used a bunch of die cuts, and for my background I decided to go with this teeny tiny stamp that has this stars on it, and I embossed this with some gold glitz embossing powder, just for more sparkle on that background. Then I got my arrangement going here. I started with the mason jar, and also for a little sparkle I put one of the stars, stamped the stars and embossed them again. Then I make my little and I used again double my die cuts or my ephemera piece. I used some golden twine and added this on the top of the jar. Then I used this little candy stick and put it on the side, and that little chipboard tag that said sharing. And here I used one of the bows. I cut this out, added this, and then I used some vinyl peel-offs, golden vinyl peel-offs, to give the background a golden frame. And then I add some candy to the top and to the bottom. And what I usually do is, you can see that here, I literally built the whole arrangement loosely, and then when I have it all together, then I attach it to the card. And I also use those gifts. I thought they fit very nicely with the colors, and yeah, attach them with liquid glue to the back. And I add some crystal glaze and also some of the dots, the crystal dots. And here's the finished card. Card 6. Okay, for card 6, I used the die that came with the kit, and I cut out those ornaments. And I used yeah, the Altenew frame die to cut a very thin golden die, golden frame. And I used this super pretty pattern paper with the poinsettias, that watercolor theme, and attached the frame to it. So yeah, it fits almost to the edge. It looks almost like a picture frame. Then I assemble my ornaments, and for the big one here I used some glitter paper, and for the little ones I added some vellum. And then what I did is I cut the ornaments with twice with some glitter paper, and inlaid those pieces, the negative pieces, into the on top of the vellum. And I did this also with pink cardstock, and you can see me, and some green cardstock, and I put literally inlaid all the pieces. Then I added some Nuvo drops where the dots are, and attached some foam tape to this. Now you can see how the Nuvo drops sink into the holes, so I will add later more Nuvo drops on top, so the ornaments almost look like enamel ornaments, so have this really nice dimension to them. Now I add those strings that came that I cut out with the die and attach that. And here you can see me adding another layer of those Nuvo drops. And yeah, this really gives really nice dimension. And I added also some of those crystal dots to it. And in the end I decided to also add some red little bows that I made out of thin ribbon and attach them to the top. I think that gives us a little like a little extra and make them look really realistic. And that's the finished card. Card 7. So for card 7 I decided to make an ornament card. I cut out 2 ruffled circles, and I used one of the Dämpfer pieces, the wreath, and then I scored the top of one of the circles and glued. I turned it over and glued this onto the other circle, but in between I put a little golden twine, the hanger, to make this a hanger. And it was very easy because you can just use this. It's easier if you have a really round circle, but I had to keep this other piece in place because to keep the edge nice and even. So I'm just attaching that, and then you have a little ornament that you can open up, and I thought that's just cute. Then I add the wreath, and I cut out the other wreath, and I lifted it up with those 3D dots. Try to match that properly. And then I added the chipboard sticker in the middle. And since I lifted this other one, it fits right into it. Then I assemble one of the poinsettias. And added this also with some 3D dots and glue. And then used my bow that I made and attached this with a glue dot on the top. And to embellish this, I used again those crystal dots and also some gold stickers. Yes, that's the finished card. It's so pretty. Here we are on the next card, and I decided to make kind of like a scene, wintry scene, and used the stripe paper and the other blue pattern wood paper and create my own background here by gluing those two together. I made a riddled edge or ripped up the edge. I want this to be almost like a snow crust or snow laying on a hill. Then I attached, there you see me do the stickles, so I put a big row of stickles on top of that ripped up paper. I attach my deers, I attach the house that I again lifted up, used them double with foam tape and glue them on. And then I added some of the stars to make it like a wintry or night time snowy landscape. And then I used this little sentiment and added some gold mirror cardstock behind it, and I'm adding much more stickles to that edge. And for final touch, I add some of the one bigger one and two little one of the poinsettias, and also add some stickle dots to make it look like it's snowing, nighttime snowing. And that's the finished card. Okay, card 9. Here I used the branch that I came, or the branch die that I came with the, I think 2 months ago in the kit with the slot. Hang With Me, I think the kit was Hang With Me, and cut that out in brown with brown cardstock. And my background I just added some tea dye distress ink, and I sprinkled on some Nouveau shimmer spray. Also add some ink to that branch, and also cut out some pink flowers, pink poinsettias, and give them a little bit shiny dimension with my micas powders. Now I'm assembling my flowers here. And you know, those poinsettia dies is just awesome because you can make them big or small. They're very versatile. I'm so amazed. I really love this die. And here I'm making again my 3D pieces, and I cut away that little hanger that came with, or that was on those stockings, and instead I added like a little loop of gold twine. I thought that's so cute, adding that. Then I'm attaching my background to my card, and I roughed off the edges. Then I attach my branch, and laid out here I'm using one of the big poinsettia and just used them, and I cut them out with green pearlescent cardstock. Added some green leaves to give it a more add more color to it, and then I glued on those stockings like they would hang from this branch. And the joy, I actually used both pieces, ephemera pieces, glued them together to make them thicker, and attach it with liquid glue and also with I cut up some mini foam tape to attach it properly to my card. Then I add some gold stickers, and I brought out those little buttons on the stockings, and also put inside the loop I put a big drop of sticker, so it looks really like it hangs from this branch, and also add some Nuvo drops. Okay, here we are already with card 10. Card 10. For card 10 I decided to make it a square card. I used one of my pearlescent white cards, and I used a border die and cut up that one pattern paper, the trees, and attaching this paper to my card, but leave an opening there. So again, so I have it a little to look like mountains in the back. Then I use the other edge and cut off a piece of the card with a pattern paper, so I have like space on the bottom. I double stacked again two of the Christmas sentiment, and here I'm building my trees. I used one of those chipboard stars and put it on top of that tree, and again I added those dimensional stickies, foam, and arrange those two trees there, and you can see me, I stick this right, and that's nice when you have those two, you can just stick them on top of each other. And then I add sentiment, the Mary. I framed it, I glued it onto gold foil and cut it out to make it a little bit more, to make it bigger. And then I add this sentiment to the bottom of that edge, and as you can see, this, when you open this up, you have a little edge down there, and I think that's very pretty. Then I use my stickers and just add more glitter to it. Add some Nuvo drops. And that's the finished card. Now here's a bonus card, and I don't know what happened to my camera. For some reason it filmed like in super fast mode and I didn't realize it. Now I tried to slow this down, but it didn't really work. So you can see me here ripping up the paper. I just used one of the pattern papers and I added a strip of the other one, and I used the tags that came with the ephemera pack, doubled it up and framed it with gold foil or gold foil cardstock or mirror cardstock. And I added those little bells and added the poinsettia. I wasn't sure which color would go best, so I made 2 poinsettias and tried what looks best. I attached my ribbon to the tag and glued this on with 3D tape. Add some stars, gold glitter star stickers, and the poinsettias. Added a lot of glossy, and there is my card. Sorry that this went too fast. And here you can see all my cards again in close up. Well, I hope you like this video, and hopefully you feel inspired to get your kit out and create some beautiful Christmas cards. It's still time until Christmas. I had lots of fun creating these cards with this kit, and I think it's a very, very awesome kit to work with. Yeah, so I leave you for now, and I hope I see you in my next video. Until then, bye.